Hello, this is Zili from Dynaset. Last webinar, we have talked about our applications in demolition sites. And today, as a, let's say, extended webinar about the last one, we talk more about the installation, like what you have to do or how you make a successful installation. So let's dive in. I will first share some slides, and we can talk about it. So could you see my slides?
Yep.
Yep. So today's topic is succeed from beginning, tips for demolition machinery equipping. So let's have a recap of the last webinar. What Dynaset helps at demolition sites. Of course, we have a lot of applications, but in last webinar, we focused on some special ones, like dust separation in demolition work with HPW dust pump, washing recycling station and all machines with the same pump HPW, and using magnet generator series product for metal handling, sorting and recycling, and HPIC for power boosting demolition tools. And then there is our latest product, HRVB, for collecting and sourcing the lightweight materials. So we're going to talk about today's topic. So how to make everything works on demolition sites. Of course, here everything we're talking about Dynaset products. So what do you need to know before installation? So this is usually the question you have to ask yourself before you contact us, most likely. And we're going to talk about what are the common parts needed for the installations and some basic installation principles. So let's dive in the first part. So what do you need to know before installation? We usually ask our customer or our dealer, like, what is the base machine you intend to use? Like, is it an excavator or maybe a truck or some loader? And then, of course, we check more information, like what's the excavator brand, which year, which model. This is like essential knowledge or information you have to collect. Then, after you're certain what is going to be the base machine, we have to check what kind of hydraulic system this base machine has. For example, we have commonly seen closed center, open center, like there is negative control, positive control. And of course, nowadays there is full electric excavator, and in that case, it's not our customer. Yeah. And also you have to take a look, what is the hydraulic pump specs, or what are the pump specs in this excavator or this machine. And when we talk about the pumps specs, in general, we're talking about the, let's say, the capacity, the flow, how much fluid it can provide, and what is the flange size. Is that 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, etc. And we're going to talk more about this flange size later on with pictures. Okay, then of course, now we have the base machine. We know what we want installed, like generator, magnet generator, HPW pumps. So we have to check where you want to install it, like where you place the machine and where you place the hoses, where you place the nozzles, for example. Yeah, and installation valves, of course. And then, are there any accessory hydraulic lines for quick installation? This is not for every case. It's for, let's say, those quick attachment devices, tools. For example, magnet generator, HMAC, let's say, combi magnet generator. You can use hydraulic breaker lines. That's the easiest way. So you don't even need any installation valve, just plug and use. Yeah. I list here HMAC, HRVB. These are typical one which use those breaker lines. Yeah. So what are the common parts needed for installations? Of course, you have the generator or the pump or the, let's say, the main equipment. But what are other stuff needed? Usually you would see, let's say, SV from us, which means solenoid valve. It functions as a switch. Then we also have LSV, load sensing valve. It also functions as a switch, also control the flow which are taken from the hydraulic system to supply to our equipment. And you often see this PVSAE, we call it priority valve. Priority valve is formed by two components, which is LSV, which I just talked about it, load sensing valve, plus a pressure compensator, which has SAE flange. And why we call it priority valve, you can understand this way. In order to make Dynaset equipment works, we need take the oil from the system and prioritize it to supply to our system. That's why we call it priority valve. And certain machines, for example, some Hitachi excavator models, you would need a pilot control kit. So pilot control kit, how could I explain it? Let's say it's used to sending a pilot signal to the base machine's hydraulic system. So the base machine will think, okay, now some part of the machine need hydraulic flow. Now we can start to let the pump running. Of course, you would need hydraulic hoses, all kind of connectors, and usually these are, let's say, you have to sort it locally because we cannot supply this without knowing exact lengths and the connectors. So it's much easier you prepare those locally. And if we're talking about dust separation, and of course you need dust separation nozzles, and there is brackets holding it. You might need to make some sort of a cover to protect it as well. And something else. So now we know what are those main components we need. How about the basic installation principles? The basic idea is you already have a hydraulic system and we want to add Dynaset product to this system. So we're going to using the cooler and oil tank which are existing in this system. Also, the same pump going to provide hydraulic pressure and flow to our product. So the key problem is how to get the hydraulic oil from the existing hydraulic system. So we're going to check a bit more detail about this. Let's take a look at this example here. This is a typical open center hydraulic system with a load sensing valve, load sensing variable displacement pump. So this part we marked 3 is the base machine's pump. And 4, 5, 6, 7 are all from the excavator, let's say, the original hydraulic system. So what Dynaset has here is, for example, this number 1 hydraulic equipment. It could be generator, it could be a pump. And then this 2, which concludes 2.1 and 2.2. That's what we mentioned earlier, the priority valve. So you can see this yellow part, golden color, 2.1, and this LS marked block looking. Okay. So all the rest, the valve system here, tank, cooler, filter, pump are from the hydraulic itself, from the excavator's hydraulic system itself. And this is what a typical priority valve looks like. And that's the load sensing valve we were talking about. On the right side, the golden color usually, it's the pressure compensator with SAE connector. Earlier I mentioned about you have to check the flange size of the pump. So here I explain a little bit more. As you can see, this is a pump, hydraulic pump from the excavator. In order to insert the pressure compensator or priority valve, you have to lift this part. That's the SAE flange. After lifting it, you will probably see the cross section looks like this. And from this chart, you could define what size is this. Is this 1 inch, 3/4 inch or 1.25 inch, 1.25 inch. So this is how you check the size of the flange. Of course, if you have the pump serial number, pump's model number, you can easily find from the specification sheets of the pump. So this is how you actually install it. As I mentioned, this is hydraulic pump. You lift this part up and you basically insert this PCSAE, pressure compensator. So this is like a sandwich shape. So you slide this into the middle of the original connection. And this is the load sensing valve. Yeah. We're going to check the operating principle of how this LSV actually works. Here we go. Now we have the pump here. This is a load sensing valve. And we have the pressure compensator flange already inserted here. So when the number 1, this black part, you can see when solenoid valve is opened, so 12 volt, usually 12 volt DC current from the excavator. So when it's getting electric signal, the solenoid valve is going to open, and then we will take the oil this way, red arrow, follow this dark yellow, and you see this CF flow. This CF flow is going to finally lead to the equipment you are using, let's say generator, magnet generator, or pump. And we have load sensing line to send signals, and the tank line back to the exit flow is going back to the tank system. So load sensing valve is going to make sure it's on off and take the right amount of flow. It doesn't take too much, maybe 3 or 4 liter extra from needed nominal flow. Then when the solenoid valve close, get another electric signal, it will be shut here. So there's no more flow going there. So all the flow Q1 from the hydraulic pump go to the Q2 direction, back to the original hydraulic line of the system. So we only take the amount we need. So I think that's the very common, let's say these are the most common type you would see. This kind of open center system, then you will need a whole set of priority valve. Earlier I mentioned about you have to also check if your excavator has any accessory lines, two lines. Here you can see the example, HRVB. This picture you can see there is 1, 2, 3, 4 ports. In order to operate it, you only need to connect these 4 ports to the hydraulic accessory lines of the excavator. And then you can see this picture more clear. That's a pump. Here we do not use any priority valve. And from the open center directional control valves, usually they already have divided the lines for the 2 lines. You just need to simply connect it. You can see we have 2, the red line, blue line, then the 2 yellow lines. So all this are already existing on this directional control valves of the existing excavator. So this is fairly simple type, and all the rest of the components are from the excavator itself. So this is the ideal case in this installation. Now here is another example of HMAC. This is even easier than the other one. You can see we have basically only 2 connectors here. So only P and T, pressure and the tank line. You only need to connect these 2. So this is the easiest case. But of course, sometimes you can also use this for generator or pump. But then the flow is, let's say, not so precisely. So you cannot control the flow so easily without priority valve. So that's the HMAC installation principle. As you can see, there's nothing else added here. No valves, no controls. You only need these 2 hoses. So usually these port 2 are located on the end of the excavator boom. Now, of course, there are cases which you don't have these accessory lines. It's not available. Then we can again come back to the first case. We use priority valve here. So this number 2, which has 2.1, 2.2, that's a complete set of priority valve. So pressure compensator inserted, connect to the pump, and load sensing valve control the on-off and get the right amount of the flow. So we built again a complete hydraulic system for this magnet. Of course, the example here are talking about, you can see the picture of the truck. That's very typical truck solution. It's also same with excavator. So this is a very short presentation today. We're talking about the general idea of installation, what you need, and how you do the installation. But of course, when it comes to the detail, there could be many more stuff needed. For example, for a Komatsu machine, you would need a special nipple, let's say, components. And sometimes you would also need some orifice to stabilize the hydraulic flow. So that's all for today. So if anyone has any question, we can discuss about it. And of course, as part of Dynaset sales team, you can always contact us. We will find this right solution for you. For example, you can check the excavator's brand. You take a picture of the nameplate. Then we can check our database. Usually we have the most branded excavators information, but of course, new ones are keep updating, coming. So it's good to know what exactly the excavator, the machine, the truck you're having. Then we can help to check the information, like hydraulic schematic drawings. Then we can mark on the drawing and provide you this kind of information. So let's say, as long as you have someone who can read the hydraulic diagram, it will be enough to get instruction from us and do the installation work locally. So you don't need hire Dynaset installation guys travel to your country, your region to do the installation. But as I mentioned today, all this information, it's good you to know it, so it shortens the time to prepare for the installation. Yeah. So does anyone has any questions? Let's see some text here. I think the time difference is causing a bit of trouble for our guests to join the meeting. So I think we can end today's webinar since nobody's asking any questions. But do not feel hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. Yeah. So thank you very much.